Imagine a day when the fate of a nation hung by a thread, when every decision could reshape history. Welcome to Battles Beyond Time. Our story begins in January 1066, in the grand halls of Westminster, where King Edward the Confessor lies on his deathbed. Having ruled England since 1042, Edward leaves no clear heir, leading to a crisis that will plunge the kingdom into turmoil. Edward, deeply religious and distant from worldly affairs, had allowed powerful nobles to gain influence during his reign. The most dominant among them was Harold Godwinson, the Earl of Wessex. Harold had served Edward loyally and was the kingdom's most powerful nobleman. As Edward takes his final breath, Harold moves quickly. The Vitnagemet, the Council of Anglo-Saxon nobles, swiftly convenes and elects Harold as king. The next day, he is crowned by Archbishop Ealdred in Westminster Abbey. However, his claim is immediately disputed by two powerful rivals, Duke William of Normandy and King Harold Hardrada of Norway. William claims Edward had promised him the throne years earlier and insists that Harold had sworn loyalty to him in 1064 during a visit to Normandy. Meanwhile, Hardrada asserts that an old agreement between past rulers of England and Norway entitles him to the throne. Both men begin preparing for war, determined to claim what they see as their rightful inheritance. Before William can make his move, a storm brews in the north. Harold's own brother, Tostig Godwinson, had been exiled due to his harsh rule over Northumbria. Now he seeks revenge. Aligning with Harold Hardrada, he plans to invade England and claim the throne for themselves. In early September 1066, Hardrada assembles a massive fleet of over 300 ships, carrying around 15,000 Viking warriors. They land along the northeast coast and march towards York. On September 20th, they clash with the English forces led by Earls Edwin and Morcar at the Battle of Fulford. The battle is fierce, but the English are overwhelmed. The Norwegians take control of York, and Hardrada believes victory is within reach. However, Harold Godwinson is not one to stand idle. Upon hearing of the invasion, he gathers his army and embarks on a grueling 200-mile march north. In just 4 days, he arrives at Stamford Bridge, where the Vikings are caught off guard. On September 25th, the battle erupts. The English army fights fiercely, and the Norwegians are devastated. Hardrada and Tostig are both killed, and only 24 of the original 300 ships are needed to carry the survivors home. Despite the triumph, Harold's forces are exhausted, and a greater threat looms in the south. While Harold fights in the north, Duke William of Normandy is preparing a meticulously planned invasion. He spends months gathering an army composed of Normans, Bretons, Flemish warriors, and mercenaries from across France. His forces are well-trained, equipped with powerful cavalry, archers, and infantry. To support his claim, William secures the Pope's blessing, gaining religious legitimacy for his conquest. He commissions a fleet of ships, each designed to transport horses and supplies across the English Channel. By August 1066, William's fleet is ready, but strong winds prevent him from setting sail. For weeks, he waits impatiently in Normandy, aware that Harold's forces are still guarding the southern coast. However, as September progresses, Harold dismisses his troops to tend to the harvest, believing William may not arrive that year. Finally, on September 27, the winds shift in William's favor. He seizes the opportunity and sets sail with his fleet. On September 28th, he lands at Pevensey on the southern coast of England. Immediately, he fortifies his position, constructing defensive structures and raiding the surrounding countryside. He intends to draw Harold into battle on his own terms. News of William's landing reaches Harold while he is still recovering from the brutal battle at Stamford Bridge. Despite the exhaustion of his troops, he knows he must act quickly. Leaving many of his northern troops behind, including Earls Edwin and Morcar, Harold gathers his remaining forces and marches south at incredible speed. Covering approximately 200 miles in just a week, Harold and his men endure harsh conditions, limited supplies, and the strain of forced marches. He arrives in London, where he gathers reinforcements and prepares for the upcoming confrontation. By October 13th, Harold and his forces reach Caldbeck Hill, just 8 miles from William's army at Hastings. That night, they camp near an ancient hoar apple tree, resting before the fateful clash ahead. Harold hopes to surprise William, but Norman scouts quickly report his presence. William orders his men to prepare for battle, ensuring his cavalry, archers, and infantry are well positioned. The battle that will decide England's future is about to begin. The stage is set. Two armies, led by two ambitious leaders, stand ready for battle. The decisions made in the next hours will change the course of history forever. In Part 2, we'll witness the battle itself, its strategies, its chaos, and the turning points that led to Harold's downfall and William's ultimate triumph. The morning of October 14th, 1066, dawns over the hills of Sussex. The air is thick with tension as two armies prepare for a battle that will decide the fate of England. Harold Godwinson's Anglo-Saxon army takes position atop Senlac Hill, forming their legendary shield wall, a nearly impenetrable barrier of men, shields, and spears. Below them, William of Normandy's Norman army readies for the assault. His force is a blend of Normans, Bretons, and Flemish warriors, featuring skilled archers, infantry, and heavily armored cavalry, a stark contrast to the largely foot-based Anglo-Saxon army. Harold, clad in chainmail, surveys his men. His housecarls, wielding massive Danish axes, stand at the front, while Feirdmen, less trained militia, fill the ranks behind. On the other side, William rides his war horse along the Norman lines, rallying his troops. He knows his cavalry and archers must break Harold's defense if he hopes to win. As the sun rises, a Norman horn sounds. The battle has begun. William's army advances in a well-coordinated assault. Archers step forward first, loosing volleys of arrows at the Saxon shield wall. But Harold's men, shielded by their defenses, barely flinch. The real test is yet to come. The Norman infantry moves up the hill, swords and spears glinting. Shields crash together as they meet the Saxon front lines. The clash is brutal. Swords hack at shields, spears thrust into the gaps, and the Saxons hold firm, refusing to break. William sends in his elite cavalry, expecting them to shatter the English line. Knights in gleaming armor charge up the slope, their lances poised to strike. But the hill is steep, and the Saxons stand their ground. The shield wall holds once more, repelling the knights with axes and spears. For hours, William's forces attack relentlessly, but Harold's men do not yield. The Normans begin to waver. The feigned retreat, William's bold gamble. Frustrated by the Saxon resilience, William makes a daring decision, one that will change the course of the battle. Realizing the shield wall is nearly impenetrable, William orders a tactical retreat, feigning a rout. His cavalry turns and pretends to flee. Seeing the Normans in retreat, some of Harold's less experienced troops break formation and chase after them down the hill. It is a fatal mistake. At William's command, the Normans suddenly turn and counterattack. The pursuing Saxons, now scattered and exposed, are cut down mercilessly. However, the feigned retreat works. Gaps appear in Harold's shield wall, giving the Normans their first real advantage. Arrows darken the sky. With gaps forming, Norman archers adjust their tactics. Instead of shooting directly at the shield wall, they arc their shots high, letting arrows rain down upon the Saxons. One of these arrows strikes Harold's eye. Despite his injury, Harold fights on, his axe swinging furiously. His housecarls gather around him, forming a final defensive ring. The Normans push forward relentlessly, cutting down the remaining Saxons. The decisive moment arrives. Harold, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, falls. Whether struck by an arrow, cut down by Norman knights, or both, his fate is sealed. With Harold dead, the Saxon army collapses. Some fight to the bitter end. Others flee into the woods. By nightfall, William of Normandy stands victorious. The English throne is his. The Battle of Hastings was not just a fight for a crown. It was the birth of a new era. William moves swiftly to secure his rule. The Saxon nobility is displaced. Norman castles rise across England, and the country enters an age of feudalism. England will never be the same again. In the next episode of Battles Beyond Time, we'll explore the Norman conquest, its impact, and how William cemented his rule. Stay with us as history unfolds.